Dore owes its name and its evangelical energy to this man, Winfried Dore, a wealthy industrialist with no previous professional background in childhood development. One-time family doctor, Roy Rutherford, is now Dore's global medical director.
If you look at the research, if you look at dyslexia research, you look at ADHD research, research in things like dyspraxia or developmental coordination, Asperger's, the cerebellum is the thing that's the common denominator.
So to claim that they can help a diverse range of conditions, ADHD, Asperger's, dyspraxia, dyslexia, does it make sense to you by saying it's just the cerebellum?
No, that would suggest... I mean, it's not even true that there's only one cause of dyslexia. There are many different types of dyslexias with different causes, let alone Asperger's and dyspraxia and ADHD. They'll have a whole host of causes too. It's inconceivable that all those four conditions have a single cause.
It's just not possible.
No.
Critics complained of a small, poorly cast trial group and the lack of a properly constituted control group to measure against those doing the Dore exercises.
A study where you just throw something at a school and see if there's a generalised effect on confidence or indeed other measures of behaviour doesn't allow you to know whether what you did caused a specific effect over and above just the general so-called placebo and Hawthorne effects that you get from doing anything, basically.
And astonishingly, of the 35 children studied, only 6 had a formal diagnosis of dyslexia, and just 1 child had ADHD.
It absolutely would have been essential that they did the trial with a group of children who, you know, fell within agreed guidelines for the diagnosis of dyslexia.
And they didn't?
They didn't do that, no.
Professor Nicholson has been in the firing line ever since the publication of the first study and its follow-up. Now that's sure to intensify with this latest revelation. Under pressure from critics to release raw data, a stunning admission. According to the key measurement used by the professors, the Dore exercises had no effect on literacy.
The DST literacy measures, 1-minute reading, nonsense passage reading, spelling and writing, showed no evidence of improvement.
In terms of literacy skills, I think the improvements were less clear than the Dore programme would hope.
They say that in their recent work, published in 2007 or about to be published, the dyslexia screening test scores show no evidence of improvement as a consequence of the Dore program.
But that's phenomenal. I mean, they have built this whole program that it can help children to read and write, to improve their literacy.
I think it's correct to say that Dore has built that whole program on the basis of their data. They are the scientists who are doing this research, but the person who's claiming really strongly that the Dore program improves the reading of dyslexic children is, of course, the Dore organisation itself.
I guess the issue is that, in particular in Australia, you're marketing the whole program on the success of these independent studies. Now, if your own scientists are saying from the DSD scores there's no improvement, I mean, isn't that misleading?
What we are doing with this program is we're letting the results of it be obvious. Most people can now come to our program because they've heard of what has happened to others. They're not reading the detail of tiny research.
The point now where we've come to the end of the generic testing period.
Winfried Dore's response to the no improvement revelation is to accentuate the positive, citing results in another test known as SATS, Britain's national measurement of academic performance at school. From these figures, Dore makes extraordinary claims about improved literacy.
So in any research, there is lots of measures taken. The major measure on reading was done using the SAT or SATs. That major measure showed very significant changes.
But the critics of the study say the SATS results have no scientific value.
I don't find it at all believable that they've demonstrated any sort of gain on those tests using the sort of methods that they've used. In fact, it's a bit of a sort of statistical voodoo that they've done on the data to try and get out these amazing growth claims. And they do some weird subtractions and divisions to come out with these numbers, but they're not believable.
They really are meaningless. SATs just do not meet the criteria that you would have for measuring the effectiveness of an intervention program. So I would say, uninterpretable is accurate. I don't think there's evidence. My statement here, pretty clearly, is there is no evidence that the Dore program has any positive and direct, specific effect on literacy skills. Simple as that.
I think internationally, most people in the field of dyslexia have come out against it.
You can, measure children's shoe size before and after the Dore treatment, and it will have gone up, but, it's not that he's making your feet bigger. Now we've got this cap properly on you, we're just making sure that the contact is really good for each of these electrode sites, which is just acting as a sensor. We're not putting electricity into your head, we're just measuring what's coming out.
Few have studied the parts of the brain involved in learning difficulties more closely than Dorothy Bishop.
So I'm just going to put these headphones on you. That's lovely.
The Oxford professor gives the Balsall Common study to her junior students as a lesson in how not to conduct a research project.
It's pretty obvious to most people who have a basic grounding in how to evaluate an intervention that there's a huge amount wrong. There's wrong with how the children were first selected. There's problems with the measures that were selected. There's problems with the design of the study in terms of the absence of controls on some of the key measures. There's problems with the statistics that they did, and there's massive problems with the interpretation that they came out with.
I know because I have evaluated the papers. I believe them to be scientifically flawed, and I believe that parents are being charged large sums of money to opt into a treatment which I think there's no scientific evidence for. So I have a moral obligation, actually, to convey this to the world at large, and I'm doing that as an individual academic.